Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Allan Kardec Spiritus Group of New Zealand on this beautiful spring evening. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, good. Welcome, everyone. Also, welcoming you that are watching here online virtually. Um, yeah, it's good to be back and doing another weekly study group. And we don't have many news apart from the fact that this is going to be our last online study group due to the lack of workers and organizers, and also trying to get more people to come and be in person watching us. So next week we will have a lecture by Alcione called Happiness. The topic is happiness. But yeah, this is going to be our last study group online, but just another reason why we should get together, make an effort of coming to our group. Um, just reminding everyone that we are offering the spiritual assistance. It can be present, no, in person. If you just need some help, if you're going through some difficulties, and if you want to learn maybe how Spiritism can assist you, we have those meetings that can be have to be arranged prior to the meetings happening. So normally it's on a Wednesday, probably an hour before we start our study. You can make an appointment by sending an email to alankardecnz@gmail.com, and one of us will get in touch with you and organize your meeting with one of the workers, one of the brothers and sisters here, so you can make the most of it. And I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing.
That's maybe just to mention that we're gonna keep broadcasting the lectures, so every Wednesday of the month.
Yes, every last Wednesday of the month. But we're pretty much getting close to the end of the year, so we're going to have one lecture in October, one lecture in November, and then probably one last one
I think
before
second week of
second week
December.
of December,
And
because
then-
we're having a break as well. But just follow the news on our Facebook page, on our YouTube, or our website, and that should be. Um,
Oh, it's Togo saying good night.
what was that?
Togo saying
Togo.
good evening.
Good evening, Togo. And just a reminder that you can leave your comments and you can leave your questions. We'll be following them, and so you can participate even though you're not here with us, Togo. You can be part of our study here. So we'll go ahead and start our. Wait, Tanya. We're gonna start our little gathering here with our inspirational reading. If anybody would like to read for us, that would be great, please. It's from The Living Spring by Emmanuel, in automatic writing by Francisco Cândido Xavier.
I can read.
Also, just a reminder, everybody got their mobiles on silent, please? Thank you.
Right. Let us spread the good. Do do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Paul. Romans 12:21. When facing evil, all the elements of nature do all they can to restore harmony and ensure the victory of the good. When a storm seems to have destroyed the landscape, the divine forces of life come together to restore it. The sun shines on the sloth, healing the wounds of the soil. The wind caresses the grove, drying out the branches. The song of the birds replaces the voice of the thunder. The plain receives the runoff without complaining and transforms it into precious fertilizer. The air, which bore the weight of the clouds and the shock of the destructive lightning, becomes light and pleasant. The tree, with broken or damaged fronds, regenerates itself in silence so as to produce new blossoms and new fruit. The earth, our common mother, has to endure mudslides and hailstorms periodically, but it does not cease to enrich the good more and more each day. In view of this, why do we harbor the bile and bitterness of evil in our heart? Let us learn to cope with adversity educating its energies to improve our lives. Ignorance is merely a long night that eventually gives way to the sun of wisdom. Use the treasure of your love in all directions and spread the good everywhere you go. Even when the lute is sealed, the spring does not give up. It just receives it and transforms it into blessings as it gently and humbly flows along to everyone's benefit.
Okay. So, just to continue in our meeting, we go through our opening prayer as we follow the music, finding ourselves in a comfortable position in our seats, closing our eyes, bringing all our attention, our feelings, and our thoughts into this karakia, into this prayer, where firstly we acknowledge and humbly thank God, our Heavenly Father, the Creator, who gave us the opportunity to be alive in this reincarnation, going through all the blessings that we receive, even those moments of struggle that will eventually become a lesson for us to be stronger. We thank you, dear God. We also thank our bigger brother, Jesus Christ, our friend, our role model, our example of love, charity, and harmony between us, brothers and sisters, and God. We also thank the presence of our spiritual friends, those who have passed away before us, that accompany us, and also help us, inspire us in these activities of the Allan Kardec Spiritual Group of New Zealand, in the search of our spiritual realities, of spiritual truth, who we are, where we came from, what are we doing here, and what is our future holds for us. We invite everyone that is here in flesh or also disincarnated that are present, sharing this knowledge, sharing these lessons, asking everyone to keep an open mind, an open heart, so that everyone can benefit from the messages coming through and from the lessons we are about to read from the Spiritist books tonight. Let us have an open mind, but also positive vibration throughout this evening. And we ask permission to start our Allan Kardec Spiritist Group of New Zealand meeting for this evening. Thank you so much, so much. All right. Well, nobody gave us any comments, but I believe it's all going well. I hope so. No comments. It seems like everybody's following okay, sound-wise. And so apparently we are on chapter 2 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, right?
Yes.
Yes. So my kingdom is not of this world. So basically, for those who have not read or followed our studies, so this book is the third book of the codification, and it's pretty much taken from parts from the New Testament, from the Bible, and further explained by the communication from the spirits that were gathered by Allan Kardec. Um, in this 18, so it would have been 1857 was the first one, so it would have been 1860 something. It's a long time ago, but the messages are still very relevant and very current as well. So what did we talk about chapter 1? Who was here last week and who can remember? What was it? What was the first chapter? Chapter 1? I have not come to destroy the law.
Yeah.
So why did we think that Allan Kardec used that as the first chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism? Kardec being the the great professor that he was, why would he have chosen, and why would the Spirit inspire him to choose that as the first chapter? I have not come to destroy the law.
I think it's true. Kardec wanted to leave it clear that the whole codification or the start of that work was just already had a foundation in Jesus' work, right? In the message that Jesus, Moses passed to us, was already the foundation. He didn't come to show the contrary on any of that, but to add on it, right?
Mhm.
So it didn't come to destroy, it comes to complement what is already there. So
Correct. Anybody else would like to contribute? From last week or from the previous weeks, because I think we spent 3 weeks on the last chapter, maybe more. Maybe four.
oh yeah, because we did a little bit of the start, but yeah,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Because those words were not, were not said by Kardec. Jesus said that when he was asked. He was saying that he didn't come to destroy the law of Moses. He came to complement, give a different perspective. So the same thing with the Spiritism. It doesn't come to destroy any Christian's beliefs or what Christ said 2,000 years ago, but to give a new paradigm, a new shift of what he said, but with new information that the Spirit brought. That's so I think that's why it's quite important. And throughout the Gospel according to Spiritism, all the chapters they don't follow a chronological order of the life of Jesus Christ. It was specifically written in a way that gives a logical continuation of a thought, of a philosophy that Spiritism brings. So after defining that Spiritism is also a divine revelation because it follows what Moses has said and what Jesus said, but then bringing a new perspective, the idea of us being immortal spiritual beings that are on a journey of growth. So yeah, and then the second one is coming to say, who's going to start reading for us today? Anybody like to read?
I can read.
It's nice and big today.
I think I can.
Very good.
So, so chapter 2, my kingdom is not of this world. So, future life, the kingship of Jesus, point of view, the Spirit's teachings, and earthly kingship. So, then Pilate, returning to enter the palace, and having made Jesus come to him, asked him, are you the king of Jesus? Jesus responded to him, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my people would have fought to prevent my falling into the hands of Jews. But my kingdom is not here. Pilate said to him, then you are a king? Jesus replied, you have said it, I am a king. I was not born, nor did I come into this world except to bear witness to the truth. Whoever belongs to the truth hears my voice. To belong to the truth, hear my voice.
I think we can, of course, we're going to read what the spirits say, but what can we take from this kind of message that we get there? Anybody want to, any word that we don't understand? Anything that caught your attention, Leo, or anybody else? Or shall we just go and read the spirits? No? You want to say anything? No? We generally have this, Patrick, right? We have this technique of imaginary pen, talking pen, that we pass around. We don't, because of COVID, we lost it, but we kind of pass the buck. If you want to say something or ask something or comment, you can, but otherwise just pass it along. You want to say anything or ask anything about what is read about the kingdom is not of this world? Or pass the buck? Eu passei back, okay.
I'll do the same.
Did the same, okay.
Me too.
Nothing's the same?
It's very fast.
Yeah.
I think it's lots of what I think when I read the paragraphs are going to be said later by the spirits. So I might let you comment on and
Okay. I just want to bring a little bit of this context up to this. So this was just before Jesus was judged, not judged, but he was condemned to be crucified. And he had a meeting with Pontius Pilatus. And that's when he was saying that people were claiming that he was the king of the Jews. And of course, they were not being accepted as such because they were waiting for a different kind of king, right? And that's why he said here, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, so if he was the king of the physical world, people would use the means of the physical life, of the present life, which was violence. That's what he said. My people would have fought, because that was the only reality of that time, was fighting, was conquering, was dividing and conquering, right? So that's what he was trying to say. That he was a king, but not a king in the sense that Pontius Pilatus thought, and not the sense of as the king as the Jews thought, because they were expecting someone that would free them once again, as he was prophetized as well. He was said that he would come back as a king, and people, the idea of king was a different one. Now he's saying that the kingdom is not here. So if the kingdom is not from here, where is the kingdom from? And that's where the Spirit's coming and telling us that the kingdom of Jesus lays on the future life, not in the present life. Yeah? Would you like to continue reading?
The future life. With these words, Jesus clearly refers to the future life, which he presents in every circumstance, as the end where humankind will end up, and as the object of people's principles concerns while on earth. All of these maxims refer to this great principle. Indeed, without the future life, the greater part of his moral precepts would have no reason for being. That is why those who do not believe in the future life, imagining that he is speaking only of the present life, either don't understand them or find them puerile.
Pure.
Puerile. This doctrine, therefore, can be considered as the focal point of Christ's teachings, and it is placed toward the beginning of this book because it must be the goal of all persons. Only this doctrine can justify the anomalies of earthly life and harmonize them with the justice of God. The Jews had only very imprecise ideas regarding the future life. They believed in angels whom they regarded as the privileged beings of creation, but they didn't know that human beings could someday become angels and share in their bliss. According to them, observing God's laws was rewarded with earthly possessions, the supremacy of their nation, and victory over their enemies. Public calamities and defeats were punishment for their disobedience. Moses could not have said more than he did to an uneducated people comprised mostly of shepherds and who needed to be touched before anything else by the things of this world. Later, Jesus came to reveal to them that there is another world where God's justice follows its course. It's, it is this world that he promises to those who observe God's commandments and where the good ones will find their recompense. That world is his kingdom, and it's there that he is to be found in all his glory and to where he will return upon leaving the earth. which one had read a detailed description, and this description of the future life is so circumstantiated, the conditions of the happy or unhappy existence of those who are there are so logical that one must state in spite of oneself that it could not be otherwise, and that the true justice of God is contained therein.
Okay. Anything left to say, Leo, about this reading? Anything that caught your attention? In a different slide, maybe, or?
So one thing that caught my attention is that when it says, so first of all, people need to be touched by the words of Moses, and the way he did was to say things that affected their life at that moment. So he couldn't speak about future life, future spirit, other worlds, etc., because they needed something that they could see. They could, it could be more like a basis of something more complicated to understand. So that's one thing. And first of all, Jesus, for Jesus to come and have his teachings, we needed to not be dead barbarians, So we need to at least have some kind of morality, like eye per eye and teeth by teeth, something like that, instead of
Yeah, the law of retaliation.
Yeah.
The law of tallying, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah, something like that. So that was like a first step for the Jesus to come and to bring his word.
Sorry, I think this slide
Yeah, the last part was a bit.
lost a little bit. We lost a little bit.
Ah, okay.
Maybe
I missed a slide.
I
Would you
think
mind reading the for that?
Yeah, I think it was just one
Maybe one
paragraph. Sorry, could you come to the next one just so I know where should I stop? On the next slide, which one had turned?
So stop the leaving the earth.
Yeah, I'll read from here
Mhm.
until the next form.
Okay.
However, adapting his teaching to the state of people at that time, Jesus did not believe he should give them complete enlightenment, which would dazzle them without edifying them, for they would not comprehend it. Thus, he limited himself to presenting the future life in principle as a law of nature from which no one could escape. Therefore, every Christian strongly believes in the future life, but the idea that many hold about it is vague and incomplete, and therefore erroneous on various points. For a great many, it is only a belief without absolute certainty, hence doubt and even disbelief. Spiritism has come to complete, on this point as well as many others, the teaching of Christ, now that humans have matured enough to comprehend the truth. With Spiritism, the future life is no longer a simple article of faith, a hypothesis. It is a material reality, demonstrated by the facts. Eyewitnesses have come to describe this reality in all its phases and in all its peripheties in such a way that not only is doubt no longer possible, but the most commonplace intelligence can depict it in its true appearance, just as one could depict a country about which one had read a detailed description. And this description of the future life is so circumstantiated. The conditions of the happy or unhappy existence of those who are there are so logical that one must state in spite of oneself that it could not be otherwise, and that the true justice of God is contained therein.
That's a big chunk. Yeah, but it's kind of like what Leo was saying.
Yeah.
Did you study at home?
Yeah, I was gonna say
You
that.
did your homework.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good.
Would you like to say anything, Andrew, that you understood from the meet, for any questions or any? You don't have to speak, but if you're more than welcome to. The reason why we have this kind of technique is because we Brazilians, we like to talk a lot. So if you don't have an order, we ended up talking all at the same time.
So we passed the
So we pass the mic around. But yeah, if you feel like talking, you can. If you don't, it's fine.
And like I just what stands out for me is there are degrees of knowing of not knowing to knowingness, and then it comes down to it goes from a state of faith, but of actually knowing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah.
So I think that's why.
And that's the beauty of this technique, because what you said brings sparks to my mind and other people's mind, because we all think differently. So it was beautiful. Thank you. Awesome.
That's right.
So at that time, it was hard to make people to understand another reality without the physical components. So it had to come step by step, starting with Moses, Jesus, and after this Spiritism to complement and give us some more details about the future life or the not visible life. That's me.
I find quite interesting what says on the last paragraph. Talks about how so many. Well, he goes explaining why Jesus had to use, like Guilherme was saying, very simple words, very straightforward concepts, because trying to explain for people that have very little knowledge on what Jesus was talking about. Obviously, he could have, and they use the word dazzle them, right? So he could have dazzled the people and telling them lots of stories, but it would sound almost magical, unreal, surreal for someone to actually believe was so far from their reality and what they knew, or our reality and what we knew, that um, it wouldn't make a lot of sense, and it would turn into something almost unreachable. And he needed to make his the explanation that he was giving about future life something that it's almost like a short-term goal, right? When we say like, oh, it's I am gonna save $1 million. Maybe for us feels unreachable. I'm gonna spend my whole life doing this. Like I'm never gonna make it. But if you just try and save a dollar every day or a few $100 a month, maybe it's not so hard. And then in the end, you have a bigger amount. So this was the way that Jesus found to explain to the incarnated people at the time something that was a much bigger concept, but it was just the start, right? So just the first drop in the bucket that would get filled eventually with more and more information. So as time passed, more questions probably started coming up from the incarnated people here on Earth as we evolved also, not just evolved. I always forget the word, like evolved in our intelligence, as science evolved, then we started intellectually thinking. It's the same word I forgot 2 years ago. Right?
Yes.
And so as we evolved intellectually, we started having more and more questions, and we needed the concepts to be broadened so we could answer the questions and we could actually strengthen our faith. So then the explanation is that that's what the Spiritism come for, to explain all those concepts that we already had questions for. So lots of us that didn't grow up in Spiritism probably had lots of questions that haven't been answered before, and found in this religion answers to the questions that we had. Or if we grow up in a Spiritist house, or home, or in a Spiritist center, going to a Spiritist center, we were always there was always stimuli telling us to ask questions, to search for information. And the thing is, the more we study, the more questions we have, and the more we understand that we know very little, right? So that's why the constant need of studying. So I find that it's quite interesting that the explanation, it says he needed to keep it really basic, but there's still religions that still keep that basic concept of there is a future life, and that's it. You just have to, when you pass this, where you go, and if you're good, you go somewhere. If you're not good, you go somewhere else. It's just a very basic concept that he had to pass to us when we didn't have the knowledge. But now that we do, we can get more profound in that. We can dive in and understand better. That is not just black and white. That is not, then when we pass is not the end. And is also the future life doesn't mean we're gonna go to another plan and just sit there and rest, playing harp and everything will be better
I
when
want to
we
play the flute.
disincarnate.
I want to play the harp.
Exactly.
Yeah, on the seat on the cloud.
We just play different things, come up with a band in heaven, So it's not. We carry on working towards something always. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting talking about how there are religions and even the same for us, right? There are other concepts that we still don't understand, that we probably believe in it or understand so little, and there is more to broaden into it. We definitely don't know everything, so there's new things to learn always.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I think it's quite important that my first question, why did Kardec in the spirits chose to put "My kingdom is not of this world" as the first chapter? Here's the explanation why this is the second chapter. Okay, because those who not believe in a future life imagine that Jesus spoke only in the present of the present life, do not understand what Jesus said or find everything puerile, because you just have to go back to the Beatitudes or after the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the afflicted. How can you be blessed if you are afflicted, if you don't believe in a future life? If you're going through afflictions, through suffering now, and let's say if you disincarnate or die with affliction, your reward, your recompense will be in the future life. So if you don't believe in the future life, the whole beatitudes or the blessings doesn't make sense, right? And this is why this doctrine, therefore, or the doctrine of the future life, can be, and of course, doctrine not meaning, like the terminology and the connotation that these days means a doctrine to doctrinate somebody. This idea or this philosophy can be considered as the focal point of Christ's teachings, and it is placed toward the beginning of this book, because it must be the goal of all persons. So we have to understand that everything that is as a reward, everything that is a recompense, or everything that we do at this time is not just for this time, it's for a future life. A life as our origin, as our essence, as spirits, as souls. Because we can't just be looking for a goal that is going to be in this life, because this life ceases, we stop. You have to be looking more into the different consequence of our actions and our goals. Just like the first reading that we had, I was looking for it because that kind of caught my attention. Oh yeah, sorry, it's here. Yeah, because we saw just in the first reading we had the consequence of a big storm. If you just look at the storm, well, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, what's going to happen? But nature finds itself or regenerating itself after a big storm. And we have many examples of that. Of course, there is suffering. Of course, there is damage. Of course, there is destruction. But to renovate a house, you need to bring down some walls and then create a better, safer house, right? And something that kind of came to me was this, actually, even from the first reading, because everybody talks about ignorance being a bliss, right? Oh, ignorance is a bliss. Actually, no. Ignorance is merely a long night that eventually gives way to the sun of wisdom. So the more, following up on what Carol said, we need to keep searching for that wisdom, because eventually we'll find the truth, the divine truth that is everywhere around us. You find it intellectually, but you can also find it morally. You can find it all around us. So, and that happens as an evolution of knowledge. So Moses came and gave us that knowledge because that was what was needed. And then Jesus came and opened up a whole new range of philosophy and ideas on how to truly love one another and love God above, above everything else. Because first was more above a fear, oh, I have to do this, otherwise I'll get punishment. Just like he was saying here at the beginning, that the Jews were like mainly expecting more punishment. What is it?
In the middle.
Public
Oh, yeah.
health benefits for them.
Yeah. For preserving God's laws was rewarded with earthly possessions, the supremacy of their nation, and victory over the enemies. And then Jesus came to say, love your enemies. Not win over your enemies, not beat your enemies, right? So it's a different perspective of that. Public calamities and defeat were punishment for their disobedience. So we had the fear of God. And then Jesus came to bring us a more loving God. And Spiritism comes to bring us a continuation of that. It's not just love God because we have faith and we have to believe what Jesus said, but because by loving God, you become a better person, you become a better brother and sister. And if all of us do that, the whole planet grows. It will be a tide that will lift all ships. So that's I think that's the importance of believing and understanding the future life. That everything that if we follow Jesus' precepts and teachings and example more than anything else, will be rewarded in the future life, not in this life. Anybody else would like to make another comment, or shall we keep reading? I think we can read. How big is this one? I just want to make sure that I have the whole. Otherwise, I'll go to the other. It's a short one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very short one.
Yeah.
We can read it.
And then we have the next one, cool. Anybody else read? Give a little break.
You can.
Thank
I
you.
have to sit there.
Okay. The kingship of Jesus.
The kingship of Jesus. Everyone understands that Jesus' kingdom is not of this world, but might he not also have a kingship of the earth? The title of king does not always imply the exercise of temporal power. It is given by unanimous consensus to those whose genius place them on the forefront of any other idea, who dominate the times and in which they live and influence the process of humankind. It is in this sense that is stated the king or prince of philosophers, artists, poets, writers, etc. Is not this royalty born of personal merit and consecrated by posterity, often displays an ascendancy that is greater than the held by the crown? This ascendancy is imperishable, whereas the others is the plaything of vicissitudes. The ascendancy is always blessed by future generations, whereas the other is sometimes cursed. Earthly
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty ends with life. Moral sovereignty continues to govern, especially after death. From this aspect, is Jesus not a more powerful king than many sovereigns of earth? It was with good reason, therefore, that he said to Pilate, I am a king, but my kingdom is not of this world.
Anybody like to comment about this, the kingship of Jesus? It's pretty simple, but in short. Or shall we continue reading? Whenever it's talk about this, the king of, I don't know, what is it? The king or prince or philosopher, artists, poets, writers, you have to think about the king of rock and roll,
Yeah.
Elvis Presley. So if somebody is that good, he becomes the king of something. But, then we have the kings and princes of the royal families, that have a title that it's temporary. And some of them die and the title goes with them. But those who actually accomplish something great, they will still be known as king. You just have to think back of of Jesus, Jesus pretty much divided the history, as we know. We are here 2022. Why? Why this year is 2022?
It started Jesus born.
Yeah. We don't know for sure when Jesus was born, but was established. Okay, let's count history now from when Jesus was born and before Jesus and after Jesus. So that's how his kingship works. He wasn't a king per se of a crown. He wasn't a king of the Jews, but his presence on earth was so important that all other religions follow this calendar. You go anywhere in the world, a Muslim country, a Hindu country, they still follow. It's 2022. Oh, why? Before Christ, after Christ, right? So who is the true king? In this point of view. But his kingship goes beyond that, because he's the king, because he's true example of love, charity, and taking away all the dogmas from the different religions that follow Jesus Christ. His basic principle and his basic idea of loving God above all and your neighbor as yourself, it's a trademark for anyone who wants to be good, no matter what religion. Right. So that's where his kingship takes place. How big is number 5? I'm just having a look.
Not very big.
Not very big at all. Maybe you can read one more.
Oh no, number 5 is quite big.
It's quite big.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we leave that to next week, and then we can focus a bit more on the Spirits book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. Because the next week's going to be a lecture, and then instead of delving a lot into this,
Then we can read 5
Yeah.
and 6. On
can you write down the book for chapter?
Got it. So
Okay.
chapter 2, item.
Item 5, from item 5.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to pass to the next reading. Which is the Spirits book, part 2, chapter 9, the intervention of the Spirit in the corporeal world, talking about pacts. Now, so what did we read about in the last part of the Spirits book? Anybody remember? Anybody with the book can take a look, take a peek, take a peek. Still talking about the intervention of the spirits in the corporeal world. Is that to do with nature? The intervention of spirits in nature? No.
Last week we were in the subtitle "Spirits During Battle,"
During battle.
and we probably read the last 3 or 4 questions
Okay.
about in the heat of combat, what happens to spirits of those who die, and what happens after death, and if they still relive the battle after they pass.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, does anyone else want to talk about the answers? So we just talked a little bit about how the spirits that pass away in moments like that are in really or in any sort of very violent state, that it takes them a long time to come down, because it's like I don't think it's here, but I was reading once about an example. It's like when you go to sleep and you're very agitated after a very long day, it takes you a while to come down, and sometimes you're gonna keep dreaming of what was happening.
Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night.
Exactly, wake up in the middle of the night still, like thinking about it, like had a very busy day at work, and go to sleep, wake up in the middle of the night. I didn't do this at work. I didn't send this email, or have a very busy day physically, and it's with you in your physical body. So many days you keep feeling the pains of it. I thought it was a good example, and it talks a little bit about how they can. It takes a long time to get calm, and there was a good sentence when I was reading at home.
Yeah, I think just because you don't have a body anymore, a physical body or a brain, you still have your mind, you still have your consciousness. And in Spiritism, Patrick, we learn that we do have which we called, was a name created by Allan Kardec, is called a perispirit, which is like a semi-material body, is your spirit's body, but is not as physical as ours. And when we die, we continue, our soul continues to use that in the spiritual realm, in a different reality. And but it's called perispirit in Spiritism. Other religions might call astral body or soul projection or something like that, but we call perispirit. So once you die, your perispirit goes on and is still in that environment of war or in that environment of aggression or violence, and still a hard time to realize what's happening to the physical body. And some don't even realize they are dead, their body's dead, but because their soul keeps on, they feel alive and they believe they're alive. Like there's a book called Planetary Transmigration, which talks about the tsunami that happened in Thailand, Indonesia, and groups of spirits are trying to rescue those who have died in the tsunami in very difficult conditions, and they still believe they are awake, they're alive, and because of that, they died. Their body died so violently and so sudden that they didn't have a proper time or moments to let go, and then the spirits from different religions have to go and help them, assist them, trying to bring them back to their reality, which is not a physical one, it's more a spiritual one. So it's kind of, when I read that last week, that kind of brought me back to that idea. It's a book written by a medium called Divaldo Franco, and Manuel Filomeno de Miranda is a spirit, which explains what happened in the spiritual world, what happened right after the tsunami that happened, that hundreds of thousands of people died in just one go.
I might use this as an analogy for when someone loses lost a leg or not, that the brain still believes that it's there.
Yes.
Ghost limb.
Ghost limb, yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes on talking a little bit about how, so after death, the spirit, the people that were fighting that are now disincarnated, do they carry on fighting, or when they pass? And then it talks a bit about how when we disincarnate, we can see the big picture, right? So lots of the time, when we disincarnate, we look back at what was going on Earth, and we don't see a motive for that anymore. It just sounds quite silly now that you can see the big picture. Most of the spirits feel that obviously it was not worth it, engaging in the fight. So that's how it kind of wraps it up.
So before we go into this part, so the book that we read first is called The Gospel According to Spiritism. So Allan Kardec and the spirits got some parts from the New Testament and gave the explanation about what the spirits have to tell about that. But this is a book that was written question. Allan Kardec would ask a question, and the spirits, through a medium, would write the answer, and then he compiled many different answers and came up with this book. And this is part two. Part one of the book is mainly about the general, not the general, the universal elements of nature. So it talks a little bit about God, the spirit, the matter, and then part two talks about the spirit life. And this chapter in particular talk about the intervention of the spirits in the material world. So this part we're talking about pacts. From question 549, it starts asking about the pact that people can have with the spirits, and how effective are they, or how do they work, and something like that. So this one we ask everyone to read a question. So can you start for us, please, Tony? 549 pacts.
Pacts. 549. Is there any, sorry. Thank you. Is there any kind of truth to pacts being formed with evil spirits? No, there are no such pacts. However, an evil nature may be attuned to evil spirits. For example, you want to torment your neighbor, but you do not know how to proceed. Hence, you call on other spirits who, like you, only desire evil. In return for their help, they want you to help them in their own evil desires. But this does not mean that your neighbor cannot be freed from them by an opposing appeal or by an action of the will. Those who desire to commit an act of evil for the simple fact of waiting to do so call evil spirits to their help and then become obligated
Obliged.
to serve them in turn. Because those spirits also need them for the evil that they themselves desire to do. It's only in this that a fact consists. The fact that persons sometimes find themselves dependent on lower spirits proceeds from their delivering themselves over to the evil thoughts that such spirits suggest to them, and not from any kind of stipulations made between them. A pact in the usual sense of the word is an allegory that portrays an evil nature, sympathizing with equally wicked spirits.
How do you guys understand about this, the whole thing from the beginning? Is there any kind of truth to pacts being formed with evil spirits?
No,
What is the answer?
no,
No, there are no such pacts. However, is it yes or no? What do you guys think? I want to create a little stir. I want to stir a little pot of ideas.
So basically, the same way we have here people who can between incarnated, that you can have a pact with a bad person to do something bad. In when you are disincarnated, you're just like we are here. We are not transformed by death, so we can continue doing bad things if you like. So you can have like this kind of pact with evil spirits. It's not an evil spirit, spirits like us, but you want to do bad things. So you can have like a pact with these spirits, but it's like you want to do something bad with your neighbor, like it says there. But we can like use an allegory, like say we are in the second level here, and they're the first level down there. But down there are bad spirits. You can say, for example, oh, if you go there, you might be harmed or you might be dangerous for you. But if you are in a different vibration, let's say it like that, they cannot reach you. So that's the kind of thing. So if you go and put your vibration down there, like you are between them in the same vibration, they can reach you. They can talk to you and then put thoughts in your head, something like that. But the way it's not like forever. It's not some scribes like you're going into hell, for example, something like that. So it's not a pact. It's just something you can do here. But with spirits, then that can act, and the way they act is like being the same vibration you are, and they can talk to you, and you're assimilating their thoughts, and then you think, oh, I'm thinking this, but the idea didn't came from you. So this kind of thing that happens, but it's not like a forever or something like this. Yeah.
I think it's very Hollywood type of picture that comes into our mind when it talks about pacts. It's like a pact with the devil, and all the things that we see in movies and shows, but because the book was written such a long time ago, the concept of pact was something like Leo said, that it was for a life, that it would when you had a pact with someone.
You'll be doomed
Exactly, it's forever, right? So
Yeah.
signing a contract with the devil is forever. You are giving up your soul, right? So I think when he talks about it in this sense, there's no pact, but you can always find company to do good and bad things, right? It's up to you what type of company you're after. So just like we choose our friends here on earth, like, we don't have many things in common. I don't want to be friends with this person, or when I'm around them, I don't feel so good, so I don't want to be. We are not going to be friends. I don't want to be around them. You can choose your companies also in the disincarnated spirits. They will follow you if you want to do something that is not necessarily good. You definitely have some company. If you want to do something good, you have company too. So you can choose your company. You can choose who is around you, incarnated or disincarnated. But it's nothing is permanent. So it's not because today you did something that is not so great and you were not in great company that tomorrow you can do different. You can undo what you did or choose to do differently. So it's not forever.
Anyone else want to pitch in?
No, I was going to say something, but she got all my thoughts.
It's called symptom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the
I
vibration.
think about the fact is, I think there is lots of to do about, as you say, the symptom, the new thoughts, and some people believe, really believe the fact is some powerful
Inferior
evil,
spirits.
yeah, because they want something material thing, so they believe I think it is in their mind, they will be successful.
Mm.
But I think it's a lot about the symptom,
Yeah. Guilherme?
vibration.
You have
Yeah,
a finger
Yeah.
up to the sky.
yeah. Whenever you believe you are doing something because of some influence, so you put the responsibility in the spirit. So I'm not responsible for this. I
I
was
was influenced,
influenced
yes.
by the evil. But you tuned your station to synchronize them.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like when you're a child and something bad and you're like, no, but the friends influenced them, they did it. So we can't have the type of thought because we are responsible for our actions, right?
Yeah, I think that idea of pact, especially going back to that time when the book was written, was something definite, something that was written down and that would happen. If you do a pact, whatever you ask for is going to happen. But here is more explaining to us that is more of a partnership.
Mm.
You partner up with someone, and it's less and less use the term evil, because when you say evil or bad, you have a connotation that entity is always being and it will always be evil, would always be bad. It's just a spirit or an entity that is not doing good because doesn't know any better or hasn't had the opportunity to grow yet. Okay, so it's whenever we say bad or evil, it gives that connotation. So let's say less experienced or less evolved. Yeah. So partnership with a less evolved spirit, trying to reach something. But then he tells us that where is it? Oh, here. No, it's back again. Um, yes, I found it here. However, this does not mean that your neighbor cannot be freed from them. However, this does not mean that your neighbor cannot be freed from them by an opposing appeal or by an action of the will. So they can do as many partnerships as they want. If they cannot reach you, like Leo said, or like Tanya said, because you are in a different vibe, it's not going to affect you at all. Yeah, so it's not something as permanent and it's not something as efficient as people once thought. Yeah, because if you are in your vibe, of course, if you are a little bit shaky on your foundations and you'll open breach to that to influence you, you're gonna go and then go to that path that is being suggested to you. But that doesn't mean that it was only the influence. You opened the space to have that thought, to have that feeling, and to follow that temptation. That's the word. Oh, being tempted by the devil. No, actually, you open up and you chose to go. And that's okay. If you go, you're gonna have to pay the consequences. You're not gonna go to hell, but you're gonna have to learn from that experience and see. In the future life, you will see and reap the rewards of that situation. I think you can read. I think that one will. Anybody else want to say something else, or we just read one more question?
Yeah, one more and that finishes this. Or maybe we go this way.
550. Yes, Guilherme.
550.
Yeah, 550.
550.
Okay. What's the meaning of the fantastic fables according to which certain individuals have sold their soul to Satan in exchange for certain
Yeah,
favors?
there's the fables that we were just talking about. Somebody sold their soul to the Satan.
Yeah, when we read the whole, we ended up talking about what is coming next because we already read.
And the answer is all fables
Fables.
Fables,
all
yeah,
fables contain a teaching and a moral. Your error is in taking them literally. This one is an allegory that may be explained like this. Those who call evil spirits to help them obtain the gift of fortune or any other favor rebel against providence. They renounce the mission they have received and the trial they must undergo in this world, but they will reap the consequence of it in the life to come. This does not mean their soul is condemned to suffer forever. However, instead of detaching themselves from matter, they immerse themselves deeper and deeper in it. The joys that they have preferred on earth will no longer be available to them in the spiritual world until they atone for their wrong thoughts, wrong through new trial that will perhaps be even greater and more painful. Out of love for material pleasure, they place themselves under the power of impure spirits. Hence, they tacitly establish a mutual pact which leads them to ruin, but which will always be easy for them to break with the assistance of good spirits if they firmly desire to do so.
I think it's a good place for us to finish because next is going to be occult power,
Yeah.
which is a continuation of that. Poderes ocultos, talismans, sorcerers. What does that all mean, especially in those times? This is more like Marvel movies and Disney movies. The Sorcerer Supreme. Does anybody else would like to comment? I think that finishes up quite nicely what we just talked about, yeah? But we just can go around and maybe ask, we have time, somebody to say one thing that they thought was impactful about tonight. Can be about this, can be about the gospel, can be about the first reading, can be about anybody's comment.
Before that, can tell me please
Mm-hmm.
that word hence they tacitly or
Tacitly.
Yeah, what does it mean? Tacit.
From Taciturn, is that it?
Implicitamente.
Ah, there we go. Guilherme
They
is
implicitly
it
What
a
do you mean in
translation
Portuguese?
thing?
Yeah.
Is a translation that
very much. Oh, sorry.
So yeah, like illegally. What do you say?
Implicitamente.
Implicitamente.
Tacitly establish a mutual fact. So,
Yeah, like hidden, like a hidden.
yeah, they tacitly establish a mutual pact. So it's kind of like underlined
Yeah,
of what's going on.
Yeah.
They establishing a pact.
Kind of agreement.
yeah.
It's silent. Yeah.
And atone, the first one there, atone, expiar, né? Expiation.
Yeah.
In the spirit world, they will till they atone or redeem for their wrong through new trials. Yeah, like I was saying before, if you want to go through that path, you can. You are God gave us a free will. We choose. We have the power to choose, but then we have the responsibility, as the law of
You should-
Uncle Ben.
Ah, yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility. The Spider-Man.
At first, you said Uncle Ben's, I thought of the rice.
Not the rice. Different Uncle
It took
Ben.
me a
Uncle
second.
Ben. Uncle Ben Parker. No.
And then when you carry on, I was like, oh no, I know which one.
Yeah, Peter Parker's Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's. Okay, so shall we go around? You first, Carol, because we were reading that.
I think it was everything we read was really nice, but at home, usually when I'm studying for the lecture, I don't read the Living Spring. So when I arrive, Living Spring is always a surprise because I haven't read.
Yeah.
So today's one was especially nice. I think I always like that the book is pretty much like that, kind of like Christian Agenda also, that does like talks about a concept and it does several sentences that just explain the concept or illustrate the concept. And I think today's one talking about that part about how well, in general, how nature has its way of recycling itself and how everything finds a way to be better. Everything finds a way of evolving and everything happens for a reason, but very well illustrated. I really enjoyed. And that sentence about how ignorance will be brought to light by wisdom eventually, it made me think like how it's almost an effort to keep to be ignorant is almost an effort because the word pushes us towards wisdom, right? We are bound to learn something every day. So to remain in the same place, you almost have to make a lot of effort to stay there because the world around us,
Push us forward.
not all the time we'll be ready to see it, but we are always constantly learning things. So I thought that was really interesting.
So yeah, so my takeaway is we have the free will even to decide what company we decide, day by day.
Daniel?
The last part here, the fact, is really interesting because it's kind of illusion. Deluded a person. Some people don't know that it's not true, so they become responsible for that action, but sometimes people don't know. They believe that is true. In fact, they wish to do something or have something. And so they want an easy way, quick way. Yeah, some people believe them. Because that's in the first 549 said there is no such a thing. In fact, yeah, that's something. Yeah.
I think for me is that what they said at the end, that you can partner up with the evil, but you can change your mind like you said, the free will. But it's not an easy job. You have to firmly desire to do so, and you have to work for that. And it's kind of like you notice you can do it, but if you want to do it, it's going to be hard.
Like we have a whole eternity.
Lots of time.
But I have to start today.
only thing
you have.
Yeah.
Don't we
Want to share something with us, Patrick, that you thought was insightful or interesting?
Yeah, I feel with what I've heard and what has been shared has increased my understanding and awareness of what I do in this time really, really matters, that I may not have realized how much it matters. And I think I become a little bit more, I can comprehend more of that the journey that I'm on. I only understand a snippet of what I can become. But that's what I do in this life matters. And what I've heard shared this evening is a way of saying, well, to reach another level or vibration of being something better than what I am. There are guides that have, or spirits have given information on how, as a guide to saying, there are choices that we make in this life. We have choices and they have consequences.
Yes.
And I can, if I choose consequences that are good, then I can attain a higher vibration. So I think knowing that, I think, wow, so if I can better myself in each life, I guess, or in each, then that's exciting and it makes me want to do more good or engage in things that are more good or engage in things that help me to be better.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing, yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Deep stuff.
So yeah, even based on what you just said, and we have consequences of our actions, so we have responsibility. So there is that sentence that says, "Tell me who are your friends, and tell who you are." We can sell it the opposite way. You can tell me what are your thoughts, and I'll tell you who are you in spirit's level as well. So we are responsible for what we think, for what we do, and for what we want of life. So yeah, of course, to achieve a better vibrations, like I said, you need to do better things. You need to think the best of others and the best of yourself and try to improve. So that's the way, So you need to achieve a better vibration and to get more synchronized with good spirits. They want to reach to you. They want to come and say something, but you just hear if you are in the same vibration as they are. So they cannot reach you if you are just thinking about doing bad things, etc. So you are responsible of getting your vibration in a good position to be able to receive good thoughts and to have good spirits around you.
Okay. Just don't be shy to start over. You have to.
Always have time.
Yeah.
Always have time to study.
Sorry?
I said always have time to study.
Yeah.
Right? Like when he said, heaps of time.
Yeah, I think something that kind of comes, to me anyway, with not just the belief in the future life, because to believe is something that it can be taken away. But if you understand that Jesus' teachings and everything that we do here is going to be reflected on the future life, it just gives a bit more perspective and patience in a way. So we always live in a world where everything is so automatic. We want things now. We want the latest. We want what the fastest. We want the best. We want everything is so instant. But when it comes to our morality in our spiritual evolution, it's going to take a long time. Yeah. And I was listening to a song by a band called Incubus. There's one of their less famous songs, "Even Diamonds Stars as Coal." So like, we have to take a long time to become that diamond, and to become that precious jewel, or like a Ponamu, right? Ponamu starts as rock, but it has to go through all that pressure of the tectonic plates crushing it and changing its composition slowly through all millions and millions of years. So for us to become better spirits, it will take a long time, but into realizing that to do that, we need to start working now to reap the fruits later on. It's something that's kind of soothing and will take a long time for us to get there. But the sooner we do it, the sooner that future will be a present. We can't postpone it on. I have my whole life to do. I have my whole eternity to do it. But the sooner we start, the sooner that future life will be our present. So it's quite refreshing to start to realize that, but the challenge is to realize that on a daily basis because we forget. We get swarmed by, swarmed by all these ideas and social media and news and, all the agenda that is given to us in the news and we forget all the obstacles we forget. But I think taking back and starting to study again the gospel according to Spiritism and seeing how important that is. Hence, in the second chapter, it's quite important for us to make a note of that. Future life is the goal, is the future life. I'm working now for the future life. Working now for the future life. And brick by brick, we have a house. I think that's what I got from that second reading. I think we are about, was pretty much it for tonight as far as reading goes. Thanks everybody for participating and giving your opinions. Nobody thinks like the other, so every little word that we all say to one another just make us all rich as a group and as a spiritist. So we go to our other state. Did you write down the?
Yes, I did.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I script it.
And I'm gonna put some music, so we're gonna go to our next.
Well, friends, if I take hers, I'll see her next week.
Yeah.
And once again, sit in a comfortable position and closing our eyes. Taking a moment to calm ourselves by taking a deep breath and imagine that we're breathing in good vibrations and peace and harmony, spreading all over our bodies, and breathing out any frustration, any stress, and connecting ourselves to the music that we can hear at the moment. And once again, thanking God and Jesus and the superior spirits that are here for this opportunity, where we put our attention, our vibrations, our fluids to irradiate, being multiplied and potentialized by the superior spirits. And we pray for those who are in need in a planet that still struggles with cultural, but also with the financial gains in mind. Many countries are at war with losses in different parts and different sides. We pray for peace on earth, praying for the big struggles, such as the one we see in Ukraine and Russia, to the minor ones in the homes of violent families. Let us pray for peace so that the kingdom of God reaching us as we finally live together as brothers and sisters in God. We also pray for health in a post-pandemic world where many have died from COVID, others have passed away from as a result of lack of treatment in the hotel, hospitals, in the clinics. Those are still suffering and going through treatments. Let's pray for their betterment, their improvement. May it be in physical form, psychological, emotional. We also pray for those who are living through loneliness and solitude, those who are in the rest homes, those who are in orphanages, and also praying for our brothers and sisters who are in prison, who have committed a crime against society or individuals, sometimes forgotten about society. We all visit all those places and offer them our Christian hug as brothers and sisters. We pray for them. We also take a moment to pray for those who have disincarnated recently, whatever reason for that to happen. Let's offer them this opportunity to be in touch with those who are in the spiritual world, trying to help them realize what happened to them and what direction they can take, the next steps on their spiritual journey in the spiritual reality, be taken care of, recovering from this passage. We now take a moment to pray for those who have recently incarnated, all the spirits that are being born, entering this great family on planet Earth, those who undoubtedly take the helm of society and make it to a better place as we transition to a better world. Let's now take a moment to send this vibration to those we know are going through a difficult time. Just take a moment to imagine them in the picture, in a big frame in your imagination, and try to imagine that person in the very little details. It could be someone from your work, from your family. And just imagine that person or those people receiving a shower of blessings, transforming completely how the person is feeling. Imagining them going from sad to happy, from ill to healthy, from depressed to a more stable psychological condition. Because the divine blessings are available to everyone who needs it and who is open to receive them. Let's now take a moment to extend this vibration to those who are in our families, wherever they may be, here in Aotearoa, or in Brazil, in North America, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, wherever they are. There are no physical barriers that can stop this vibration and this love to reach them. And we are all connected through the power of love and affinity and synchrony. We now take a moment to thank the superior spirits that are here in this moment. Firstly, applying the fluids in the water that we're about to drink at the end of the meeting, but also to applying the spiritual fluids we are receiving from the top of our heads all the way to the bottom of our feet. We thank you for this blessing that we are receiving, helping us and benefiting us wherever we need. The spirits know exactly where to apply them. And with the acknowledgement that just for being here, we have received many blessings through the lessons that will be very fundamental to our growth as spirits in our daily lives. And hence we go to our final stage of this meeting where we thank God for the many wonders that we receive on a daily basis, like the sun that gives us energy and give us light, give us happiness, the rain that brings us water, feeding our plants, our trees, that gives us oxygen to breathe. There's so much beauty in the creation, in which we are also part of. And we feel gratitude in this moment. We also thank Jesus for leaving countless examples of how to improve ourselves through the different examples of how to love one another and God above all. We also thank the superior spirits, the spirits who are assisting us and helping us in these activities of Allan Kardec Spirits Group of New Zealand. And thanking for all the messages received, all the vibration that was kept, and the protection we received during this meeting. And let us all go in peace until we meet again on another meeting, another activity of Allan Kardec Spirits Group of New Zealand. And we ask permission to finish another meeting. Thank you so much. So be it. Amen. Thanks everyone. And I'll see you all next week with the lecture happiness. Good night. Omari.